Out of the Well is a series where young adults take a swing to discover the deeper meaning of life through different personal encounters. They will be sharing about what they have taken away from adulthood, from their perspectives. Moving beyond chasing clout, how did age change us? How did our next decision lead us to our next big thing? How can we uncover our untapped potential, or how can we embark on a journey of learning and relearning? How can we challenge ourselves to be a better version of ourselves yesterday? Like the Asian folktale of Frog in the Well, we know that there's always something more for us to learn beyond what we already know. Join us and our guests in each episode as we dive deeper into our true selves and purpose, taking a leap out of what we know and jumping out of the well and moving on to the next ahead, one well at a time.
Okay, hi everyone, welcome to the podcast Out of the Well, episode 1. So my name is Keith and I am a SIT student studying pharmaceutical engineering. And I'm also an entrepreneur who started a tuition agency last year known as Lumie Lessons. Today, I have two very amazing guests with me and I'll let them introduce themselves. Okay, so we'll start with Crystal. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, thanks Keith for having me here, and it's a pleasure to be here together with JJ as well. I think for myself, my full-time job, I actually work in a creative media agency. So what we actually do is that we help like clients, like even government or commercial clients, find the right way to market to their audience in terms of like campaign, educational outreaches, or even to like basically convert sales. So on the side, myself, I do actually also run a small Instagram business, a humble one, that sells female apparel. So I think other than doing like plainly sales of female apparels that we release monthly, right? I think this year we decided to put in a bit more effort by trying to curate more female related content. So I think this time round we do have a 6-part series whereby we actually get females from different industries to cover a bit about what they do and then share it on our platform. And I think last of all, I think similar to yourself, I'm also a student at SUSS, so I actually take a part-time degree of communications and I'm in my second year, another year to left to go.
Nice. Second year. Okay, great. Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you.
Okay, I would like pass time now to JJ so that he can introduce and tell us more about himself.
Right. So hi everyone, my name is JJ. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Collab. So Collab is a platform that connects company to lab resources, things like your lab tests, lab spaces, research collaboration. So I also run a tuition startup just a year ago. So I ran it for about a year and exited, and now it's in the good hands of Keith, who's sitting here with me. And like all of you here, I'm also a student in NTU. I'm currently studying bioengineering and in my year 1.
Okay, thank you guys for sharing about yourselves. Okay, I'm very interested to know more about the both of you. Okay, so let's talk about Crystal first. Okay, so you said that you are a part-time student in SUSS, and yet you have a side hustle doing blog shop. Plus you have IG shop, sorry,
Yeah.
IG shop, right?
IG shop.
Plus you have you're also working for another company known as First Wave, right? And so I'd like you to share how actually do you manage your time, like with all these things going on, especially with school going on.
Yeah. I mean it will be a lie to say that you have it all together 24/7, right? Like every single time you're on the ball and things like that. I think for the side hustle wise, I'm always very thankful that I have two like co-founders with me that always put me on track, right? So I think both of them, similar to myself, they do have a full-time job, but this is their only side hustle excluding the studies part, right? So I think with timeline it helps us a lot with two of them in place. I think we know it's time to catch up on this in case I miss it. Otherwise, I think generally just being very organized by having like Notion, putting in your calendar, like even reminders like when it's time to go and collect your boots now, kind of thing, right? I think overall also for studies and work-wise, I think it's always important to have like a long hindsight, like on certain months, certain events will be a bit more when it comes to year end or the mid-year, when the financial year renews, or this kind of thing. Once you have it in hindsight, you will be able to plan your time well. I think other than, a lot of people talk about to-do lists, right? But I think it's always even better if you have a full schedule of the year, which period you have, so that, when opportunities like, for example, this podcast come along the way, I do have time to slot it in and then come here, right? So I think, that's a couple of things on my end.
I'm just curious, how far do you actually plan for your week? Like, do you plan a week ahead or 2 weeks ahead on your calendar?
For me, it's always a month. Right,
always
a month. Yes. So I think I try to block out important things lah. So first of all, it's like always like this rule, right? Like birthdays, right, or family trips, or like outings or whatever. Unfortunately, now with the phase 2 heightened alert, I think it's rare. But it's harder, right? So I always plan a month. Then after that, I will just plug in like assignment dates, and then you always assign more time to do something than shorter. So for example, assignments, a lot of people just put the deadline, right? So I think it's always important to, like, for example, you think you take 4 days, then you plot 4 days, right? So that you know that if you have to finish, you have to finish it within that time period.
So you plan ahead and then give yourself a certain timeline.
Correct.
Nice. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you, Crystal. So JJ, you also have a lot of things, and furthermore, you're a full-time student in NTU. You're studying bioengineering, right?
Yes.
Okay, and you also run a startup right now. Can you share with us a little bit about how do you manage your time as well?
Alright, so I mean, like Crystal, I wouldn't lie, but I think mine would be much more severe in terms of how much school would actually impact my life, right? Because I'm also an engineering student, and typical engineering students, they study possibly about 8 to 10 hours a day, and you wouldn't be able to catch up on school, right? So the thing is, for me, I really have a clear goal in mind. Before uni, the point of studying bioengineering, it wasn't to get a good grade, but it was something that I really love to study. And I mean, call it naive, but personally, I don't believe in grades, because recently I really got 2 internships without even having any grades, right? So I believe you can prove what you're worth. You just have to be able to do it. And so my end goal in mind is just my company, which is CoLab.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's very interesting, because I think that kind of worldview, right, or point of view is not a common Singaporean theme, because since young we've always been taught to do your best for school. I'm not trying to advocate, that we shouldn't study for school or what, but I want to hear furthermore, like, why do you have that kind of mindset, and what triggered that kind of mindset in you to actually say that school is important, yes, but there are more important things when it comes to career.
Right.
Can you elaborate more on that?
Yeah. So I think it's a very good point that you bring up, because that's what most people wouldn't think about, right? So when I talk about grades, right? Why do people want to get a good grades, or why are they even studying in bioengineering, correct? So these are the questions that I believe most people wouldn't ask or wouldn't dive deeper, right? But then if you really think about life on a macroscopic point of view, so imagine right now you have graduated and you got a good grade, right? And you land, let's say, a typical bioengineering job, right? Is that what you love to do? Is that what you are able to do for the rest of your life? And do you know how are things like, right? Yeah. So all these questions are things that people don't really ask themselves. And I believe we always need to have an end in mind. Yeah. So my end in mind is basically I love business, I love science, and I love the startup culture, and that's why I'm doing this.
Nice. Okay, that's really, really interesting from both of you, because personally for me, right, when I started my business, it's actually a very similar frame of reference with JJ lah. I like to view my life like 20 years down the road. Do I see myself being an engineer? Honestly, the worst case scenario, yes lah, I will be an engineer, because no choice, right? But for me, it's education. I want to impact the education system in a positive manner, and to me, the best way to go about doing that is to start a company, because the company goes against the current. We're trying to solve problems that are there. Yeah. So for Crystal, right, I think I also want to ask you, like, why do you do this? Like, you shared about how you're managing, right? How the calendar, planning 1 month ahead, and but why?
Yep.
Yeah,
I think also before I move on to the why, I think I also kind of agree with both of you, right, in terms of like grades, right? I wouldn't say that getting an A is important, but I think when receiving an education, a lot of times I think many people mistake it as content learning, right? But I think a lot of times actually it's more of the framework mindset, how you find information and you draw it. Because like, for example, you memorize for an exam, but in real life, when we work, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Nobody actually memorize formulas. So I think it's always important to receive an education. For everybody out there who is watching, right? Education is still important. It frames your mindset to make you learn how to be resourceful and to grasp information, piecing them together. So I think back to the question on why do I do it, right? I think it's always because I'm always thinking, a step ahead from money, right? I think a lot of us, we are always looking for money, but what's after money? I think when you look at life in a bigger scope of things, I think there's a lot of things that money can buy you, but there's also a lot of things money really can't buy you, right? like time. So I think how you spend your time in this world making your impact is different, right? So I'm trying to maximize the amount of time I have to do things that I like and I care about, which is like, for example, family, people. So in order to do that, I always build my business in a sense so that I can save more time, have more time for myself, a flexible schedule, so that I can put in things that I want to do, right? So I think that's always my like motivation on why I build a business, or why I find other ways to earn money in a quicker and faster way. Yeah.
Thank you, Crystal, for sharing about that. Right now, actually, I want to ask JJ a little bit, all right, about Collab, because that is your current hustle right now. Am I right to say that?
Yes.
So, with your current hustle, Collab, can you tell us more about what you do there, as your role as a founder and CEO, and also why do you actually want to start this company?
Right, okay, so there's a lot of questions. Maybe I start with Collab, right? What are we doing? Yeah, so previously I've mentioned that we are doing lab tests. Basically, we connect companies to lab resources like lab tests, lab spaces, and research collaboration. And how I founded this idea was actually after my time in Insect Feed Technologies, right? If you guys are not sure, Insect Feed Technologies is a company that farms black soldier fly. So that's in the current trend. Basically, this fly species is very powerful because they have a low cycle time. Okay, I'm not going to go very technical, right? But the thing is, it's in trend. Yeah. Okay, anyways, they're in trend, and I was a research associate there. So during my time there, I was tasked to do certain experiments, and then basically just hit the research and then try to come up with new things, right? So one of my tasks is to source for lab tests, and during that period, I actually find it actually very inefficient for like anyone to source for lab tests. So maybe I can ask you, if you're a company and you want to like test for certain nutrition in your product, right?
Yes.
How long do you think you will take?
At least a month or two, maybe. Yeah.
Oh, okay, fine. Actually, that's right. You know.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, okay. But actually, these tests are actually very common, and they are actually it just take very fast for the actual service provider to provide it. Yeah. So in my company, okay, maybe I just promote about it a bit. You know. Yeah. So we are able to reduce the licensing time down to less than a day. Yeah. And the reason why is because we have a
less than a day.
Yeah, correct. Because we have database of lab partners. Yeah. So the thing about all this inefficiency, I believe like in the science industry is just that like people are not aware of it, and I feel that maybe like there's just not much advancement there. Yeah. So my whole vision is actually just to advance science.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, interesting. But why do you want to advance science though? Like what's the motivation behind that actually?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. So since young, I'm very interested in science. So every time you watch certain movies or a series, right, there's this scientist helping some hero or like the main character. Yeah, so I would imagine myself to be there. Okay, okay. Sometimes I still do it today, right? But
how old are you?
Okay. Let's not
reveal the age.
So, yeah, correct. So yeah, but after going through biotechnology in my poly days and finishing my internship, what I realized is that sometimes sometimes we think we know what we want to do, or we think a certain job entails whatever that we are seeing, you know, like what you see in movies, what our parents are telling us. You talk about doctors, lawyers, right? Yeah, so all these start to form a certain impression in our head. Yeah, but that's not the reality, because through my time in a certain company after my internship, and after talking to all my friends in the research line, I realized that that's not the thing for me. Yeah, so the amount of interaction time you have, like talking about people interaction, right? It's like bare minimum. Let's say like a week, maybe you will only converse a few sentences, you know, to your fellow colleagues or what, right? So I'm not saying that this is not good or this is bad, right? I mean, some people love that, they love the job or that's fine. Yeah, I mean that's good for them, but I just can't do that. Yeah, and another thing is also the salary, or I can say the reward to effort ratio, you know, it's just not there. It just doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, so the thing is, all this intrinsic interest, right? Like during my free time, if you ask yourself, what do you do during your free time, or what will you do if you weren't paid for it, right? So all these, I believe, are actually your intrinsic interests,
Correct.
and it's things that are very hard to change.
So like even if you're not being paid to do it, you will still do it in
Yeah,
your free time. Okay.
right. That's why. So the thing is, this is still my intrinsic interest, and I don't think I can change that, right? But the thing is, there's many ways to do things, and what I believe we can do is we can look at it at another angle.
Right.
And since I'm interested in entrepreneurship after founding the tuition startup with you, and then being interested in business, I believe that all these just gel together, and then that's how I got Collab.
Interesting. Okay, I will have to say that from the audience perspective, right, this is definitely something that is out of the norm, and people don't talk about it in schools enough lah. I come from a university as well, and a lot of times I want to jump into this topic, but it's not easy because you don't have many people who think like entrepreneurs, and I believe there are people out there that want to be entrepreneurs, but they feel like there's such a gap, and I just want to say that actually we are normal people. We came from normal background, normal schools, but we just have this, I would say, initiative in a sense, and we have a strong why. So thank you JJ for sharing your why. Right now I want Crystal also to share a little bit about her IG shop, as well as why do you start this company?
Okay, so I think like what Keith has mentioned, right? We are all normal people. We are just trying to find ways to make our life easier, right? In short, like people might say that we are hardworking, but actually we're just lazy lah. We're just trying to find easier way to do things.
Actually,
right?
we are lazy people. And that's why we think about.
Exactly. So we think of ideas to make our life easier, right?
In the future.
Exactly. Yeah. So why I started the IG shop was actually to solve problems. So everything that we create is to solve problems, right? So me and the two other co-founders, we are dance friends. So we actually went to an overseas trip together to Korea. Then I think at that time we talked a lot about like, not say fashion lah, but like clothes, right? And pieces, apparels that you get from places. So I think easily people always look at Taobao, those kind. But the problem is that, right, sometimes there is like minimum shipping quantity. Those kind of issues lah. It's just very painful, right? Then you cannot buy it. Then you have to go and find your friends, ask them to buy things that you don't need. So we're thinking like, okay, let's solve that issue. So I think it has always been in the back of my mind. And then I think circuit breaker hit. So actually our company just opened last year, this time. So technically, first year anniversary. So yes, we survived. And yeah, so I was laying in bed one day and it's 2 a.m. and I was thinking, okay, because I was working previously, my creative media agency were in the events line, right? So I think our industry aside, every single industry in Singapore has been hit terribly by COVID, right? And then with the mindset, it's like, oh my god, I need money, right? I need to make sure that I'm secure. I have security in my life. So yeah, so if anything happens, touch wood, right, I need to have a backup plan. So I was thinking, what sort of business should I do? What am I most familiar with? You cannot jump into a business not knowing the mechanics of it, right? So thankfully, I'm acquainted to like Korea. I actually hosted some Korean people from back in school, and then I know a little bit about like clothes mass purchasing. I have friends who know dealers, and of course I can find my sources online, shoppers and purchasing quantity. Then I was thinking, okay, why not let's just start a business, right? And who is the best people to do it? People who have the same interests as you, right? Who understands the motive and the mission why you're doing it. So I think two co-founders and myself, big fans of Love Bonito and big fans of Young Hungry Free. I think what they have done is not easy. I wouldn't say we are comparable to them, but I think what they always do is that they have a purpose and they're always trying to drive towards that. And I think bit by bit, slowly climbing and learning about the entire system, how we differentiate ourselves from small businesses is to move towards that. So I think with paired with my insecurities, right, and then leveraging on the resources that I have, I think that was how the business was born. In terms of like practical terms, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah. But okay, so your shop name is
it's called Moeulda.
Moeulda.
Yeah, Moeulda. Moeulda.
Okay.
So what that whole word is basically to gather people together in Korean, right? So we hope to gather like-minded females together to purchase from our platform. So I think our platform is very female-centric. So that's why we also curate female content, like I earlier mentioned. Yeah.
So we have like an e-commerce store here.
Technically speaking.
Something like that,
technically
as well as we have a science collaboration platform
Yeah.
that you guys are providing.
Yes.
So that's interesting. So I believe that people that are listening to us right now, they want to hear like maybe an advice that you guys can give, because honestly you guys are, like I said, out of the norm, but normal people, but just because you guys have this initiative to do something different, I believe that's what makes you being viewed by some people out there as being out of the norm. So maybe you guys have some advice that you guys can give, maybe one advice to people who want to be entrepreneurs and their students as well. What will you give, JJ? What would be your advice?
I think the first would be, don't do it. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, okay, the thing about entrepreneurship is, right, we all look at the glory, right? The media, the flame, the fame,
Money,
the glitz, the glamour, right? We look at people who really succeed, Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, right? Jeff Bezos, right? So many of them, I can't even like put an end to it. But the thing is, they don't really look at the hard work and what's going on behind the scenes, right? So people actually work their ass off, and people actually beg for things to work out. People actually like, they were just incredibly hard workers.
Yes.
And I believe things don't come easily.
Yeah.
So the thing is, what I always believe is this quote: a lover will always outwork a worker. And those who find meaning in their work will always persevere. Yeah. So people say you shouldn't aim for perfection. You should aim for persistence, right? Yeah. And that's the reason why they give this quote is because just by looking at things in the more macroscopic point of view, like just doing it the same thing over and over again, constantly learning, of course, that actually increase your chance of succeeding, right? Compared to someone who give up maybe after a year, right? If I would be doing it for 3 years or 4 years, right, and I would work like maybe 2 to 3 times more than an average person, right? I believe that's how I can get things done.
Awesome. That's interesting. Okay, what Crystal? What about you?
Yeah, I think
What is one advice that you should give?
Advice. Yes, I think advice. One thing. I think one thing I really agree with JJ. I think you too, right? I saw you nodding your head. Persistence is very important, right? As compared to what was the other one that you said?
Perfection.
Perfection. That's right. So why is because I think taking small businesses into example, right? During circuit breaker, I think everybody was in the same mindset, right? Same framework of thought. And what differentiated between those bakers, right, that is still flourishing now and those that started with them at the same time and then dropped off halfway. These people, no matter how bad their businesses got, even if it's an order a day, they continue grinding in terms of like marketing, getting their name out there, providing quality service. And I think that is something that people tend to not notice, right? Like people think, one order, what's the point, right? I shouldn't do it anymore. But with every single thing you do, you improve over time, right? Like you learn what's the better way to do things, what your customers like. This data points, right? One order, one case closed, everything is an experience. So we shouldn't take that for granted. And I think advice, always get started, right? Don't think about it. Don't think too long, right? When we think too long, it always comes.
So
it always comes to us. Then like, I shouldn't do it. Like I think it's too risky. But the risk that you take might be minimal. We are still young, right? I think time is our biggest asset. Try something. If you fail, then okay. Then like you say, right, back to our uni degree, right? You'll be an engineer. I'll be a PR manager. You'll be an engineer, right? What's the worst that could happen?
Right.
Yeah. So I think that's my advice. Always to get started.
Awesome. I think I resonate with the both of you. If I were to give an advice, it will also be similar on a similar line as train of thought as this. So to me, it's always to ask yourself rationally, what's the worst that can happen? You know, like, okay, if you have to borrow money from, let's say the company you want to start is a tech startup and then you have to invest 100,000. Obviously that kind of startup, then you got to think about it lah.
Yeah, for sure.
But I will be honest with everyone here. I started Lumie lessons with just $10,000 in the company. And some of you may say, oh, $10,000 may be too much for me to even save up for it. But the truth is, you just got to teach. I taught tuition for 1 year to save up that $10,000 in order to invest in my company. So actually when there's a will, there really is a way. You know, so I resonate what JJ said. You have to have persistence in what you're doing, and don't think too much. Don't have an analysis paralysis, right? Don't think too much about it. If you think this is going to work, the best way to do is just to try. You try, the market will tell you whether it works.
Yeah. What's the worst that can happen?
You don't need to run simulations in your head all the time to think whether or not this works or not, right?
Yeah, I still think like, I agree with Keith, right? Especially also on the point where you talk about like the kind of money you need to start a business. I think generally, don't think too far, right? I would say that most of us are average people. We will not be Elon Musk coming up with like great technological ideas with a company that one time you blow up and then that's it, right? So most of the time we will be doing small businesses, which thankfully with all the technology that we can leverage on, like IG, right? Like my IG one, we don't have rental to pay, right? It's free platform. It's how you try to tweak it. So frankly, with Keith, similarly, I think I spent maybe 7 to 10K, and all those can be done by coming up with a side hustle. I think that is also a good point that we can talk about.
Part-time as well.
Exactly, working a part-time, right? Like for example, you teach tuition. I can also do that, right? I've done that before for younger children. So I think all those are ways that you can gather money. I think most importantly is people who want to do it. I find that most people, you just have to convince yourself that you really want that. When you want that, you will find ways to get there. Yeah, I think that's just like what I wanted to add.
So true.
Yeah,
Krista, I really agree with what everybody said just now. So I believe you say that people are strongest in times of crisis, right? Yeah, there was this saying that I really follow, which is you never know how strong you are until you had no choice. Yeah, so I forget what book it was. There was this 4 very strong motivators, right? So one of them being fear, love, duty, and what's the last one, Keith?
Greed. The last one is greed.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the book that JJ was quoting about, right, is actually from this book called Think Like a Monk. And it's by this famous writer and philosopher known as Jay Shetty. And so he's a motivational speaker right now, by the way. And he has written like this book called Think Like a Monk. And in this book, it talks about how there are 4 intrinsic motivations for humans. And 4 of them being greed, fear, love, and duty. Yeah. So and there is a negative and positive connotation as well. Whether or not you are motivated by greed and fear, that is a negative side of things. But if you're motivated by love and duty, it will be the positive side of things. So like for example, when JJ, you want to start this company, or let's not talk about company, let's talk about your studies, right? So back then when you were in poly, when you were a bit more interested in your studies, right? Like what motivated you to want to study hard at that time?
Basically, it was my love for science. Yeah, I just love biology. I was reading about it during my free time. Right. So at that point of time, there's no one who told me to study. There's no one who say that I have to read about it 2 hours a day, right? Yes. Yeah, but it just happened.
So JJ's example would be motivated by love for the subject, in a sense.
Right.
So what about Crystal, when you were studying hard for your exams last time, or even right now in SUSS, what is your motivation for it?
I think like as an Asian, right? I think we have to. For me, I find a duty to give back to my parents, right? They're paying for my school fees. Right. So I think it's a lot about that. Yeah.
Okay, I see. So actually, what Crystal is really motivated by is actually love and duty. So she's motivated by love for her parents, as well as a sense of duty and responsibility that she has to finish her schoolwork properly and etc. So personally for me, it's also out of duty and in a sense love, because I do love the subjects I'm studying. Like even though I say that I'm going to be an entrepreneur in the future, like even right now, like I want to do entrepreneurship for my entire life. But when I'm studying my subjects, right, modules like mathematics and physics and all that, honestly, I actually love the subject. I actually do enjoy studying it. So that is the love part. And duty as well, because I feel that when you study hard and you work hard for a school, you actually it actually works on character. Yeah. So I think today it was a very interesting conversation with the two of you. I think we talked about many topics, and I think the main theme today is about how we should really think like entrepreneurs, like why we start doing what we want to do. And I do believe that whatever we have said here is actually of great value to the listeners today. Okay, so thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye.